Thank you, Pascal, for your introduction. Oops. So I want to thank Matt Pinto for organizing this great conference and inviting me to come speak. So as an academic, am I the token academic here? I don't know, but oh, yay, okay, good. So, you know, as an academic, I get to, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to like kind of be provocative and think about things, you know, I don't have to be practical, right, or to that extent. So, but I do teach a lot of different classes. Just to give you a little background, I think Pascal hit it all pretty much. I am on the editorial board for a journal called Frontiers in Blockchain, and I did co-author this first book, college textbook, 2019. Seems like forever ago, right? Unfortunately, half of the book is out of date already. My colleagues told me, don't write this book because it's going to be out of date in 6 months. But I just couldn't resist. I actually went and heard Bettina Warburg give a talk at Villanova. She was a keynote speaker, and she did the first TED talk on blockchain. So I rarely do this, but after her talk, I walked up to her. I said, we got to write a book. I just promised my wife I would not do any more books either, because it's like just disappear for 2 years, you know. So unfortunately, I couldn't resist. And they also helped them launch a Web3 VC fund in 2019. And she actually had a baby that year, so it was like a big year, a book, a baby, a fund. And but it's all good. And I'm on chapter 6 of the second edition of the book, and it's all about Web3. So that's where we're really headed. So anyway, I want to kind of talk about a pet topic of mine. It was in the first edition of the book, and it's certainly one that I think as I'm also associate chair of our department, been there 31 years. One of my jobs is to kind of look for emerging areas that we need to turn the curriculum towards, right? So I'm also advisor for our new crypto club at Villanova. We have a lot of good interests and some good members, and we're teaching blockchain now at the graduate level. So, but as I said, I have to look, like I have to be ahead of the curve, because we're not Drexel, we're not Temple, we don't have that many resources. We need to like focus where the biggest bang for our buck is. And I personally believe that this is one of those areas. And for this, so I volunteered to do this talk because in a way it prompts me to do research that I don't really have the time to do, but I really, really want to do. So that's one reason I agreed to do it. So the more I read, the more fascinating this area is when you think about what AI has to offer and what blockchain has to offer. So I know Mark put up a quote from Bill Gates, which is actually called Amara's Law. You've heard that this morning when he talked about, you know, we underestimate the impact of technology in the long term and overestimate in the short term. I think they're certainly in a situation now, and I'm an IT guy, right? I'm more not into crypto per se, although I love crypto, because it, you know, incentivizes all the developers, right? It's a good, you know, think of the internet. It took 20 years till it came to fruition, and it was all done by volunteers, right? All the developers just did it on their spare time. So anyway, so I told Matt when he asked me to do a talk, I said, I'm more interested in the tech underneath, but I'm not going to overwhelm you with a lot of stuff. I'm going to talk just real quick, what do I mean by AI? Some of the other people have already talked about that. Some common applications, and focusing more on bots. So bots are like ubiquitous right now. If you think about where you're encountering AI, bots is like one of the main applications. So, and then I want to look at theoretically, why is blockchain a good fit with AI? And how it's extending, and some of the newer use cases and I think this is really should be of interest, because I'm looking like 5 years, 10 years out, and this is where the VCs want to be. You know, we're always looking as a VC where the emerging areas, because you can get in at a as an angel, basically, right? You want to be in as an angel. And my co-authors, they've been doing it, they're like OG Ethereum people. So that's, you can, if you're in at a token for 20 cents, you can, and it goes to $16, you can withstand an awful lot of the gyrations in the markets, right? So we're long-term limited partnership that we have, but we're focused on Web3 angel investing. So that's our niche. So I think we were the first. I know A16Z is into it now, but they were into other stuff too. Okay, so let's look at, very, very generally speaking, I just thought it'd be worthwhile to have a little conversation while we talk about AI. And I think Rich was talking earlier, like all the different things about AI. Obviously, we're trying to mimic human intelligence, and that includes all the things like language, decision-making, learning, movement, sight, vision, things like, think of any human intelligent behavior, that's what the idea is. So in particular, I think, machine learning and neural nets and natural language processing are the most interesting for blockchain purposes. But this stuff has been around since I did my dissertation 35 years ago. So it's not like it's new or anything. If you think about the applications, the main application areas, now I know it's impossible to see this, but in the data security, network security, this is a survey done of a couple thousand companies asking, what is the main area that you're developing AI applications for? So image recognition, call center chatbots, these are the top of the list for artificial intelligence applications. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about bots, and you're hearing a lot about bots, right? Elon is trying to clean up Twitter. Over half of the accounts are bot-related accounts, if you've heard that, right? Instagram, it's filthy with bots, right? There's bots all over Instagram. Same with crypto. Crypto space is full of bots. I had a Zoom call with some billionaire investor guy, and he was wanting us, my students, to help him develop literally hundreds of bots for trading in some of these liquidity auctions that he was into. Moving large amounts of money with bots. So the big whales love this stuff because it's like the Wild West, and they can actually move markets and prices. Their problem is entering trades, moving big amounts around, with being discreet, obviously. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. So I'm not going to go through all the different bots, social media bots that are out there. There are actually good bots and bad bots. This is a whole other topic for our last speaker. So just as a side note, last year in Decentraland, I think Domino's set up a pizza place, and you could actually go to in Decentraland. You could, in the metaverse, like one of the top metaverse platforms, you could go to Domino's in the metaverse with your avatar, and you could order a pizza, and it would show up in your doorstop in your real life. So just that's a kind of thinking about transactions in the metaverse and linking up the real world with the metaverse. It's kind of interesting to think about that. But this is not, I'm not here to do a potpourri of emerging tech. I want to focus a little bit, because the more you think about it, the more I think this is a really emerging area. And John and I, we talk about emerging tech opportunities in the blockchain space all the time. So how does a chatbot work? Well, if you think about the AI involved in a bot, right? You have the actual natural language engine, right, that will actually take verbal or textual input from a variety of different sources, Twitter, whatever, email, and it will convert it into a query that it can then query its knowledge base and get responses or database. So you think, okay, well they're all over. I had a student, an Indian student, who told me he had booked a flight with KLM back to India one Christmas. And you know, there are like 7 major languages in India and 12 minor languages. And what was cool, he said that it understood a couple dialects, the chatbot that he was booking a flight with. And so they've gotten really, really good. My point is they've gotten lots better, right? If you think about the quality, it used to be, I mean, they're still annoying and I don't hate them, you know. I tried to pay a bill to Comcast with a bot or get some info about setting up my new, you know, it was terrible. But they have gotten a lot better. I'll just say that for now. So think about how so there's a lot of AI involved just here, all right? So think about what, you know, crypto trading bots. I mentioned those. They're really popular. You can actually subscribe to a bot if you've got the money, and it will trade for you in the crypto space. They love them. These bots are all over the place. And this is a good point to mention the terms on-chain versus off-chain. Anyone really? I'm used to calling on students here, so you have to bear with me. But anyone give me a quick definition of on-chain versus off? This is a really, really important thing we don't talk about enough in like crypto, in the world of blockchain. This is where it would apply. Anyone? Yes, yeah.
It's the blockchain has data, and then you're kind of mirroring that data on a traditional database.
Beautiful. Yes, exactly right. So that would be off-chain, right? Yeah. I just want to make sure which. So, yeah. And most of these bots that we're talking about here, just to be precise, are off-chain bots, right? Because they're scraping data from Crypto Explorer or crypto sites, and they're getting it real time or close to real time. And so I'm more interested in the mashup of AI and blockchain on-chain personally. So let's think briefly. I'm not going to go through these again, but remember the key characteristics of blockchain: immutable, decentralized, secure, privacy, and has extendable, right? So I'm going to go ahead here because I'm going to skip and come back. But so this got me thinking. We compared the two, right? AI is what we would call an active technology. I call it active, right? Active technology in that it can help you make decisions. It's probabilistic, whereas blockchain is deterministic, right? We have rules and protocols about what the blockchain will do, and it works. This is a beautiful thing. And blockchain is transparent, whereas these decisions, how the AI makes decisions, it's really hard to figure it out. It's like a black box, right? If you have a neural net or a genetic algorithm and you run the data through, but the AI is really good for huge amounts of data, right? Because I remember when I first started playing around with neural nets 30-some years ago, the data was no good. We didn't have any good enterprise data, transaction data that we could run through our AI tools. So we've come to the point now and where we have lots of good data and we have bandwidth to run on a network, right? So blockchain depends on the internet. All that technology is still foundational to blockchain. And the other thing is, well, AI is running on a centralized database like we were just talking, right? And whereas blockchain aspires to be decentralized. So in a way, they couldn't be more different technologies, right? But you think about AI can also adapt. right? It can learn. That's what machine learning is all about, taking all that data, running it through, and trying to learn from it. And then there's deep learning and so on, all right? So they're really quite different. But here's the thing, they're both disruptive technologies. Now you might think I just randomly jammed two sexy disruptive technologies and jammed them together and said, I'm gonna do a talk on this. Aha, now that's not the case. But this is a beautiful thing because in all my research on this topic, most of the professional research is like 2 years old. What does that tell you? It says this could be a really big emerging area. And there's just a few companies at this point, some that are investable, and we have invested in a couple of them. So here's kind of this slide just tells you some of the interlinking. But I think, so for example, I just said, blockchain's good at privacy. Machine learning helps us be autonomous. Security is good with blockchain. Efficiency, authenticity, blockchain. So automation, augmentation, AI. Transparent data source, blockchain. Okay, see where I'm going with this? What we've been trying to do in AI world, research for years, we've been trying to come up with what they call distributed AI, like agents that actually work on a network, right? It's tough though, it's very, very hard to do this. So, if I wanted to, why don't I just do, what's wrong, what's the problem with bots? Any problems you can think of today? Bot problems? Any problem, they're annoying as hell, right? But besides that.
Fake users on Twitter.
There you go. That's a problem of authenticity and transparency, right? We don't know who's collecting data with that bot about us. It's very centralized. It's gonna be Google or Facebook or whatever, right? Or TikTok or Instagram. They're collecting data using their bot about it. Would you want to give your credit card to that bot? Probably not. Especially young people. They're really trained to pick out, they can sniff out scams like crazy. All my students, they're like light years ahead of all the boomers in terms of sniffing out scams, right? So there's so many scams out there. No one would want to give a credit card to a bot, but that limits the things you can do with a bot. Think about it, right? You can't have the bot go buy something for you. Now we have all these zero knowledge proofs. I don't know if I haven't heard that mentioned in any of the talks. That's certainly a subset of what I'm talking about because zero knowledge is like an AI rule-based thing that we kind of mashed into blockchain, but it's really hot now. It's all you see, right? So anyway, this kind of summarizes what we're talking about. I think if I go look at some companies here. Anyone heard of Botto? Botto, no? Botto was the first, what they call generative AI tool, right? So what Wagner does, it's a decentralized AI bot, and it actually runs like a DAO. I haven't heard anyone use the term DAO. Those are really hot too right now. So if you're looking at other opportunities, DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization, right? So what the deal is, they have an AI bot that actually goes out and looks at millions of artworks. First you give it like a seed theme. You say, painting of boats or something like that. So it'll go out and look at all the paintings and photographs of boats throughout the last 1,000 years or whatever, but it also knows the preferences of the members of the community. It's learned because every week it generates 350 artworks, and the members of the community have to vote to decide what they think is their favorite. and then they auction it off on NFT site. I believe it's Looks Rare or something like that. One of them, this is actually Edward de Bellamy. It looks terrible here, but it was auctioned off at Christie's back in the boom for NFTs for over 430,000. So that then feeds back into the community, causes their token to go up. So they do that every week, and it's kind of cool, the idea that they get to vote, and there's this whole protocol for that. And now it's a big thing. There's DALL-E 2, and I've seen some of the other art generating bots. Even these are the ones. Now when you go into PowerPoint and it suggests design ideas, that's almost, they say now they're going to actually use generative AI art for that. That's coming in Microsoft PowerPoint, right? Not that, my aesthetic is pretty limited as it is, but here's another one, Aletheia, and which is Greek for truth. We know that, right? So they create, if you give them your NFT, they can help you create an intelligent NFT. So it can actually walk around in the metaverse, the intelligent metaverse, and it can buy things and learn, and their games, it earns tokens. It's like going to Chuck E. Cheese and earning tokens for doing things in the metaverse. Except when you go to redeem your tokens, you remember Chuck E. Cheese? You guys take your kids to Chuck E. Cheese. And you play skee ball and you get 5 zillion paper tokens, and then your kids all excited, they go to redeem them and they get like a mustache comb or something for 5 zillion paper token, right? That's kind of the way it's saying it. But here, the actual tokens have value. So this is a good, you can actually, your smart avatars for companies that function as digital twins in the metaverse too. So this is a wide open area, and it's actually, we have a early stage investment in this one too. Now, this is a little bit more, I think this example will illustrate what I'm talking about with the mashup of AI technologies and blockchain a little bit better, because NASA has been working with a blockchain app. It's Ethereum based since 2018 for satellite navigation. So you think about it, every time I look, see a film clip of a satellite, there's all this space crap out there, right? So it takes a lot of time for engineers to identify it and navigate now there's so much up there that they have to spend a lot of time navigating around all this stuff up for the satellites. And there are literally thousands of satellites up there now. So it's really getting crowded right around the Earth. So instead of doing that, they came up with this AI tool that will analyze the video that it's seeing in real time, and it will make a decision, right? So it'll decide how to navigate and avoid hitting some of this stuff. Now that's really important around the Earth. And then for deep space probes, it'll analyze, right? It'll analyze the video and it'll see what is out there. And that's the other problem is in the deep space, it takes hours for communication to come back and forth. So by the time the engineers on Earth know what it's seeing, it's too late. So that's why this combination of AI and blockchain, the blockchain makes it resilient because there's problem with sunbursts from, they call it bit flipping. The sunburst can flip a bit in a program from a 0 to a 1 or other, vice versa. So they have to have redundancies and backup and certainty that it's not been changed, right? The programs haven't been changed. If it has, they have to go to a backup program and so on. But they can tell that because that's what blockchain is good at. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm explaining it clearly. So think about it. I want to bring it back to churches, right? And I teach a class called IT for Church Management in our Church Management Master's program. And I love it. It's a great class. The people are so devoted. You know, you got a priest who's servicing 3 parishes and the church managers, and they are making do with little. But there is free bot software out there. So I teach, this is definitely the bleeding edge. I don't know any churches that are using bots. But this would be a case if we did decide to use bots, you know, they're getting cheaper and easier to develop. So if you want to help, if someone comes to your website, you know, and a chat bot comes up, can I help you? Well, if you know that it's going to protect your privacy, you might be willing to donate more, right? You know, it's a personal, it could be your personal bot too that's going to help onboard you if you want to become a volunteer, or it can answer some frequently asked questions. So, but you probably, yeah, so you think about it, and it would keep your info private. That's the kind of the big difference. Privacy and security of the interactions with these kind of bots. So, I mean, it is probably 5 or 10 years off easily, you know, but this is why we, as investors, we like to find these things that can give us competitive advantage with a little bit of tech, and also we can get in really early. So I think some of the potential apps that we talked about here are like, you know, we know that we can use it to analyze huge amounts of data, right? Because remember, AI is an active tech, while blockchain is inactive, right? That's really a takeaway from this talk I want you to get, right? So if a Android comes from Skynet to kill me, you'll know it's because of this talk that I gave, because this is a joining of the two. This could be the missing link between the blockchain needs to really go wild, is all I'm saying. You know, so don't be surprised if you see some Android from Skynet here. So questions? I don't want to belabor this too long. Yeah, John.
Can you just talk a little more in depth about how zero knowledge proofs and AI can interact?
Well, I'm thinking like a zero knowledge proof could be rule-based. So it's an example of like a tiny little bit of AI within blockchain. That's all. Now, I don't know, because there are these parameters you have to define for your ZK proof application, basically, the way I understand it. It's an emerging area. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't even really understand ZK proofs probably as well as you. So
Well,
it makes sense a little bit.
well, the example I give with my 20-year-olds or 21-year-old students is like, okay, here's a ZK proof, right? You go down to a liquor store, you're 21, and you want to buy a six-pack, right? And they ask to see your ID. Well, there's all kinds of information on your ID that they don't need to see, right? They don't know you need your name. They don't need to know your address, which we all know have led to stalking and things like that, right? All they need to know is that you're proven to be 21. They have zero knowledge about anything else. So with a ZK proof, we decide what we are going to share, but the other party knows it to be true because it's on a blockchain that's been validated. So that's a simple example.
The way I was told was, two algorithms could interact without giving away the full algorithm.
Yeah.
To make it better. If two companies have two different algorithms, they need to share one piece of information. They could do that with $0.
That's a great example. Yeah, and to be more specific, I did some work with the American Insurance Institute in Devon. They have a big office, and it's a consortium of like 60% of American insurance companies. So when you have a car accident and they have to share your info, like your coverage, and so they are all trying. They are now in proof of concept for blockchain where they share the info, and also there were a bunch of other things on a blockchain between these two parties. So that's a perfect. You don't want to give away everything, right? So, but they're in this consortium. They're competing, obviously, but they have to work together too. Does that help? Okay, Andreas, yes.
I have a question. So I like your example from NASA and the satellites. And
Yes.
how they might do decisions. I did not understand what blockchain does in this scenario.
Yeah, that is a little vague, I know, because I'm not sure I understand. The way I understand it, it adds resiliency for things that could harm the program of the satellite, like the solar flares that will cause bits to flip. So they can check and see if the program, they can compare it to a backup and make sure that it's, so it adds resiliency. I mean, you're not gonna have a hacker out in deep space, obviously. So, but that's my understanding. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so the box for the church parishes, how does blockchain come into that? So the box that you mentioned with churches,
Yeah.
how does blockchain come into it?
Well, this is a little bit of a stretch too. Imagine if, this is why I'm a professor and not a developer, right? But this is fun, right? This is what I think of fun. But think of it like you wanted to make a donation to the church and it could walk you through and you could be sure that it was private and secure if you were to give it your credit card to make a donation. That's the best example. Healthcare is another good example. There's all this privacy and HIPAA requirements for healthcare. Some of these bots, you want to make sure, and you could also have a personal bot, right? There are a lot of bots for nonprofits now. It's starting to become a thing because there's so many different tasks they can automate in nonprofits, and they're cheap. But you're right, the connection to the blockchain is a little bit tenuous, but I think if you want, you can have a personal digital twin in the metaverse that is actually out making donations securely or transacting or earning things. The church website is a little bit tenuous. It could help you onboard you as a volunteer, could help guide you to programs that it thinks you might benefit from. I don't know. So that's about as good as I got. Other question? Yeah.
Just to add on with the bots and the website, additionally, voice response like the Alexa or the Google Home, I think that's another use of the bot.
Yeah, totally, yeah. I have students that order like paper towels by telling Alexa, send me paper towels from Costco. They actually can, or Amazon. I guess they want you to order, make it easy to order stuff from Amazon, right? The smart speakers and all that. But yeah, no, those are definitely common bots and useful bots. So.
And another way for churches maybe to get information out to parishioners. Wanting to catch up if you didn't want to go on the website, you could, while you're making your coffee or whatever, your Alexa is telling you what's going on in the parish.
Yeah, and they're multilingual too, right? They could community news, upcoming events, visitors, the correct human agents. I mean, these are actually doing it now, some of the nonprofits. I don't know any churches that are doing it. Some of the mega churches might be next, I assume. But, you have to be creative. It's, right now we don't know what we don't know about this stuff, but it's an interesting area. I feel like it's definitely worth exploring in the future. So hopefully this kind of got you thinking, if nothing else. This is my email. If you have any thoughts, please send them to me. Of course, right now I'm in the middle of debugging student projects and finals coming up, so it may be a little slow responding. But other than that, thank you for a nice session.